There we go. All right. Let's see if I can get this lower. There we go. Hello, everybody. So, just a quick update reminder. My new documentary I produced about Wall Street, how crooked, how corrupt, how fraudulent, how rigged the system is. It's called The Paradigm of Money, and it's online now, theparadigmofmoneyfilm.com. I'll also post it to my Vimeo on demand. So people that are following me on Vimeo, they may have seen Best Kept Secret, the docuseries, should be able to easily find The Paradigm of Money, the new documentary exposing Wall Street corruption. And let's see, so I've got Jonathan Chadwick should be joining. He needs to send in a request. So I'm going to talk with Jonathan Chadwick today, who's basically down under in upside down America, as I call Australia, Oz. And he's going to give us an update on what the heck is actually going on down there. And, until he sends his request here, I will just be here with you guys, talking to you about what the hell is going on. Well, Wall Street is the worst. Not necessarily. It's not that Wall Street itself is the worst principle. See, I think the problem is that you've got a notion of capitalism and free market capitalism, which we know is fictitious. But you have a more dangerous system, which is the collusion that goes on between our central banking system, right, and which is a private banking system that loans out money to our governments, and then essentially uses crises. By the way, what you're seeing really right now with the coronavirus and all this is actually just a cover as an excuse to print massive trillions of dollars. Every one of these, you name it, bailouts, the new Build Back Better bill. I mean, these are just free money for the oligarchs essentially, and to create a more a larger and larger system of control that you can never get out of, because we, the taxpayers, are ultimately the ones responsible, for this debt that can never be paid. So the system is rigged in such a way that, as Catherine Austin Fitts puts it, it's like those that basically create, how do you say, they've robbed and looted, and then they're going to continue to rob and loot and have us pick up the tab for them. So the money printing is just endless. And that's what people have to understand. All these waves of COVID, it's just like, don't you get it? These are just excuses to continue with the financial meltdown. Blame it on coronavirus, blame it on, more lockdowns, more disruption to business. All this stuff it's a controlled takeover of your planet financially. And it's being done under the excuse of coronavirus. This is why, we've been so adamant against the lockdowns. We've been so adamant against the hysteria. And now, again, the whole notion of vaccination passports and identification. This is just the next wave of getting control of the human being, the human body. Getting basically control of, your biogenetic computing machine as they perceive you. You're a biocomputer. And so the idea of having identifiers that can then be within the body itself. I mean, look at what's happening in Sweden. They're these people are literally clamoring to get chipped so that they can comply with vaccination passports. Yeah, this is the protocol. So as far as my what's my advice for what to do with the vaccine passports? I mean, you have to continue to resist. You have to go to places that resist this principle. I mean, cities might be. In America, it's like, I put it like this, Democrat cities are basically like the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It's really that simple. And so how do you defeat a Soviet type of strategy? Well, you have to boycott it. You have to prove that its philosophy, its ideology is worse than yours, and you have to be a pro-freedom personality. So, if you're America fighting the Soviet Union, you have to be the better example of freedom, and that's what we are in the states that choose not to participate in this insane so here is Jonathan should be joining us right now.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was just talking about the insane authoritarian structures that we have in America and
Yeah,
how, mostly they're in Democrat cities.
yeah,
And the best way to defeat them is to basically get away from them and then prove that your model, your society is better than theirs, right? And
yeah,
so I'm really curious to know what's going on down under,
yeah.
and with, how different territories are responding, to these enforced, you name it, quarantines,
It's,
vaccination passports. What's going on down there?
yeah, yeah. Well, sorry about that. I tried to get the live happening on my side, so I was trying to add you, and I kept jumping over to our messages. So sorry if I took a bit of time to get over here, but yeah, it's all strange. I keep hearing all these reports that every state, so we've got states of South Australia, we've got Queensland, we've got Victoria, we've got New South Wales, Northern Territory, and Western Australia. Well, all of these states over the last couple of months have been, making announcements that they've got these camps, right? But some are already in use and some are being built. I think the Howard, I can't think of the exact name of it, but the one in Northern Territory, um, I think it's the Howard Springs camp in Northern Territory. That's the one that's up and running now, but I think that came from Papua New Guinea. I think there was a refugee sort of facility on Manus Island, and I think they closed that down, and I think that this is what the Howard Springs one is. But, to me, it's just become alarming now that, Victoria, they're actually building one. South Australia, they're building one, but they're saying that it's for like Indigenous, so it's like, well, the narrative is for people to get sort of vaccinated and so that they can get their freedoms back and get their life back, and so they can travel and normalcy will return. But yet discreetly, right, they're making these camps, and you've got to ask yourself and say, what are they for?
Well,
So
well, we know what
exactly.
they're for. We know what they're for. They're already being used for quarantine. I mean, that
Yeah,
we've heard about quarantine camps in Australia
yeah,
that
yeah.
they've held people against their will, right? If they're
Mm,
tested positive or things like this. But more importantly, why should it? I mean, this is my problem with Australia. When I was there years ago to promote my book, The New World Order, and I was talking about the New World Order, the people down there were just like fluoridated, glossy-eyed, shrug their shoulders. Yes, she's whatever. It's not my
mm,
problem.
mm.
And now you realize in Australia is like one of the most fascistic forms of control
Yeah,
that's been imposed, as you know.
yeah,
And it's like, well, the government has the power to tell me what to do. The government has the power to give me my life back. The government does not have that power. The government is not ordained by God to give you your life back once you comply with it. How insane is that? How backward is that thought process?
mm, yeah,
The fact that
yeah.
even
Well,
thinks that is okay to go back to my life once the government tells me that I can go back. No, the government doesn't have that right.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. It's we are freedom, right? Freedom stands with us, and we are free within ourselves. And it's like, it's it's the last we spoke last year, and it's quite the the turnaround that we've had from the beginning of this sort of scamdemic to where we're at now. The whole compliance of society, and what people are doing, like here in Australia, people have disconnected from like what got them here to begin with. Like it's not about a virus anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
Like it's for their livelihood. It's so they can go out and associate. I seen someone write something and it's like, well, we can go now and go to a cafe and have a coffee together because we're allowed to, and people are parading. Yeah, I know it's wild.
I've been
It's
given permission because I'm a child.
yeah,
My
it's and
parents, the state told me I can go out now.
yeah, and this is coming from like a 50-year-old person, and it's like they tag someone online who lives in Victoria, and it's like, oh, we can now gather together and go to a cafe and have a coffee, and it's just like, why did you start all this to begin with? Why are you wearing the mask? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And people now, you don't hear people talk and say, oh, it's because I don't want to get sick or infectious, or I want to stay healthy. It's not about that. It's like because we're told to, and it's like, it's so weird of how we got here so quick. And I never understood the whole concept of MK Ultra and hypnosis and mind control and all these things, but I couldn't get my head around it. But you know, it's I can comfortably say that Australia and lots of parts of the other around the world, I see like it's hypnosis, right? It's mind control in full effect. And like I go around and I speak to people and I try and plant the seed and just sort of break the programming that they're in. And I'll go to a restaurant or not a restaurant, like a cafe to order coffee. And I'll just see all the staff and they're all wearing masks. Like, Sean, this is like 18 months in, you know, and they're still wearing masks, right?
Well, trust
And
me, it's the same. It's the same in most Democrat cities in America, by the way.
yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
know, it's like there's an interesting divide in America.
yeah.
But I guess which territory or which state are you in?
I'm in New South Wales. I'm west of Sydney.
So you're outside of Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, we've been in lockdown for 7 months, right? So Victoria, I think I heard that
you've been in lockdown. Well, I mean, I was there last year, and it was pretty much isolating. The states were separated from each other. You couldn't cross.
Yeah.
I was in
Queensland.
I could only at the end cross into the border region, Byron Bay, but couldn't. You know, the travel between states was banned. So you're saying you've been in lockdown now, so you were in lockdown before. They opened up, and you've been in lockdown again for 7 months.
The borders are still shut. Victoria itself is the most locked down state in the world. But basically our borders are still shut. And we have been in lockdown ourselves for 7 months, but we've zoned areas like classed as LGA. So you're not really allowed to travel more than, 5 kilometers out of your LGA, unless you've had the experiment procedure or you can show your green pass. You know, you're not allowed to have 2 people in the same car as you if you don't live together. So I participate.
This is like Iran, man. I've been to Iran.
It's crazy. Crazy.
This is like Iranian Muslim rules. You know, you can't be in the same car with someone that's not from your family or something.
So what they're saying is the 15th of December, they're meant to lift it, right? But I think it's just, they're saying that 90% is vaccinated and stuff like that. But, the people are complying with, oh, it's okay, everything's going to go back to normal. But for those that aren't, are they going to lift these restrictions? Because if they don't lift these restrictions on December the 15th and they further extend the goalposts, well, we're screwed. Like, I really shouldn't be going any more than like 5-10 kilometers out of my...
That's what the World Economic Forum talks about, though, in the whole Great Reset strategy and the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's all about this concept that you're basically localized, in a way. You're going to live your whole life, within 7 miles of your apartment, your house, because the idea is they want to cut your carbon footprint, right? They're going to tax you if you leave that 7-mile strategy. But hey, you can order from Amazon and get it delivered to you, or you can order from whatever your grocer, and the food comes from all the way around the world to get to you, by the way, because we shut down every domestic industry and our ability to produce things locally. So we're still shipping it all the way around the world. But hey, the carbon footprint about those companies doesn't matter. It's what you as an individual do. Like people are they gotta wake up. This is the clown show. This is the clown world we're living in.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I mean, they're preparing us here for the climate lockdown. And I think when I did speak to you last year, I did say, like, I can see the narrative that's been set after 2019, 2020 wildfires and the whole climate change, using that narrative. But, you see that, and I feel that that's why it's so, like, it's been ramped up faster. I feel like that this is the whole driving force behind it, because I feel that they can push this agenda faster here in Australia because we had the recent fires. It's like every time that there's like a little bit of a rain, it's like, oh, everything's catastrophic here. It's catastrophic floods and catastrophic winds and everything. And it's like climate, and it's like they won't let that go. So, when you see where we are, and stuff, and like people getting used to just sort of participating with work, and it's like, no, like you can see what they're trying to, do. And this feels like it's going to be permanent in the coming years, that the climate lockdown will,
Yeah, exactly. Because you've built it. I mean, they say
Mm.
it only takes 21 days to build a habit. Now in a year and a half, you don't think you've completely been
Yeah,
brainwashed. I mean, a whole
yeah,
generation is pretty much just going to find this
yeah.
normal. But what's happening with the Aboriginals? I mean, let's be clear. We've
Okay.
seen some reports coming out about the Aboriginals being, or I want to say the original people, as they say.
Mm.
Aboriginal is not necessarily the right word, but the original
Mm.
peoples of Australia
Yeah,
basically are being targeted. If I'm
yeah,
correct, right? To
yeah.
be forced to be vaccinated, or what's happening?
So, okay. So I think that everything that's coming out about it is probably everything that is being seen around the world. So, and from what I know about it and can take from it, that as I said, South Australia is claiming that they're building a quarantine camp for the Indigenous. Right? That's number one. For the Indigenous. Why for the Indigenous? Um, but what are they doing exactly? Well, they're getting people driving through some of uh, the communities, the Aboriginal communities in the outback, and handing them money. Here's $500. Here's $700. Take the shot. Take the injection. And you see cars pulling up to just like someone. It's obviously not fully paved like the road. It's the dirt roads out in the outback, but you just see like a car pulling up on the dirt, and there's someone just walking along the road, and they're literally, trying to get these people to take the shot. So, I don't know why someone's in a car recording someone to take a shot, and the next minute they're saying that's what they're doing. Is it sort of, there's misinformation on both sides, right? So are they just trying to stir everybody up? But that is what's happening. They are forcing these communities. They're locking these communities down. They're not giving them access to go and get foods. The main places where they can get food, they're locking those places down as well. So all of that is actually happening. In terms of people being put in camps, I know that there was a report that people fled and there was like a chase down, and the police had to go and get them. That is actually the case, but yeah, it does definitely sound and feel like they are sort of being rounded up to say,
Well, they put out there was one. I want to say tribe. I mean, it was one group of people we saw that were sitting down, basically pleading,
yeah.
right, making a pleading
The SOS.
case, basically saying that they're concerned about the children being targeted, right?
Yeah. Well, that's completely it. And even around here in the cities as well, like they've just put out on mainstream that over 5 years old can get injected as well. So I think all kids, all races are targeted at the minute to say. But in the sense of the Indigenous, I mean, you'll be seeing the same sort of information that we're seeing come out. And I know the video that you're referring to, because I think it went all over the internet. But yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and then the key, of course, as you said, is to keep people separated, right? If you can't travel outside of your quarantine zone, this is like a fucking movie. I mean, people really just like you got to be like so brainwashed to think this is normal, this is okay. So you have a quarantine zone essentially. So you're basically keeping people isolated from each other, unable to communicate. I mean, I know Byron Bay has like a strong spiritual community and probably one of the more conscious communities in Australia. Do you know what's happening there as far as are they going along with it or resisting it, or what's
There's a part of me that's calling myself to go north, closer up to that sort of area, because I know that some people that are going, just a little bit inland, maybe 30 minutes an hour, for like I think you've got like Nimbin and areas around there. I think there's some sort of sustainability communities that are setting up there. But I did hear something that there was a backpackers in Byron Bay that they had to shut down for like 7 days, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing there. They're free there in Byron Bay. Do you know what I mean? That was just put out literally a week ago. So they are going to be, trying to get the restrictions up there and to try and, well, I mean, I think all little towns and suburbs are going to have to follow suit. So they're targeting areas individually, and it's like they've gone for the cities, and then they've sort of released the cities a little bit with lesser restrictions. And then next minute they'll go and get a little bit more rural and then out. I haven't heard anything about with Byron Bay up until literally a week ago when they said that there was a backpackers and they just locked it down for 7 days. So
yeah, so exactly, so they lock you down basically. It's a mixture of different torture techniques. So it's like they stick in, it's like we lock you down, we punish you, quarantine you. I remember last year I was in Queensland. It was pretty open. It was normal once you got into the state. You had to go through 14 days, all that bullshit. But once we were in there, it was normal. Then you'd hear reports from Melbourne. It's like you had like 2 hours a day that you could leave your house, and it was like all monitored. And you're like, okay, this is the model right here. What they're rolling out in Melbourne, Victoria, is basically like the model for how they're going to operate this New World Order agenda. And then, I'm sure it's being applied in similar fashions in other states now. And so, so the point is that they're saying, what if you comply and have 90% vaccinated, then you can have freedom back? Is that the idea?
Well, not freedom, privileges.
Privileges, of course.
Yeah. But
because they can't give you freedom anyway. That's not their right. That's God-given right.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's all got a use by date on it, though. Because I think even New Zealand and Jacinta is saying, oh, it's only valid for 6 months, and then you got to get your boosters. But
what if you miss the first two? I'll catch you. Can I just catch you guys on the 8th one or the 9th? Yeah. Like, what happens if you start in the 9th? Then you have to go back and start over. Like,
well, that's it. I'm going to sit this one out and just wait. But it's quite funny because you listen to all the narratives, and Justin Trudeau, he said we're going to treat climate change like we treated COVID. Okay, so what the lockdowns? Okay, and you watch the cycle of how we are, because obviously Europe and America, their seasons, when COVID first hit in March, obviously January, February, March, we've just come out of our summer season, right? So the cases were low, but yet the colder climates, the cases were high. So you're watching who's in front. So we know now with this new variant and where we're at now, and we're just about to come out of this lockdown from Delta, but now this Omicron, right?
I swear, it's like, I call it like flu season watching. It's like, okay, it's going to be a bad flu season. Better lock down again. Go back into your house. Put on your mask.
So basically, we're in the same spot we were last year. So how the rest of the world handles this new variant in this colder season is how Australia will react. But I think in terms of who's who, Canada's compliance to it and Victoria are very similar. And I believe that New South Wales is 12 months behind Victoria's steps, okay? Because Victoria is very deep. And you've got to understand that when we had all the terror threats and all the terror attacks, I mean, because they're all, a part of I'm not telling you, you know it all, but they're all a part of the same agenda. But, Melbourne got hit with the terror attacks. We know that France did. We know that Brussels did. We know that England did with the Boston bombing. So it's almost like the same sort of talking points and narrative coming out of the same places that were hit with terror attacks are also these ones that are the talking points for, you know what I mean? So,
well, sure. It's they call it disaster capitalism, as Catherine Austin Fitts. So I was talking before you jumped on about her, and how it's essentially they use these disasters that are oftentimes false flags, right? Controlled events, or you blame it on the Muslims, but it's actually done domestically, or a mixture of both, or that kind of thing. And then you have your police state, your security state apparatus at work to ultimately what? I mean, war. The Iron Mountain document that was quoted in the film JFK says that the organizing principle of any state is war, because it's not just unless you're actually defending yourself from a particular target and a particular invader, the state is using war or warfare as an organizing principle for its own power, to print money, right? To essentially get control of financial controls, you name it, with various markets, and to print money especially for the military-industrial security state apparatus, bioweapons, biowarfare is now an extension of the military-industrial complex. and again, it's all married to control the civilian population. So what we're seeing now is just a ramped up, accelerated, insane version of what we saw at the beginning, really with the, you could say going back to the Vietnam era, because there was surveillance and police state apparatus going on in America then, but 9/11, Patriot Act, that whole thing started this whole era of wars against invisible enemies, right? The invisible enemy of Muslim terrorism, or just terrorism in general. You can't define it, you can't locate it, it's everywhere. It's the same with the invisible enemy of the germ. So there's no end to it. And then what's going to go next, as you talked about, is going to be climate. Because from there, once you've established the ability to tell people what to do with their bodies, where they can and can't go, what their privileges and permissions are, now you've established everything in place for the global warming agenda, which is, again, it's nothing to do with climate. It's all about controlling the population.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It does get overwhelming when you piece it all together and you're like, holy shit, we're deep in it. Like, we're Australia now, we're in the heart of it, and not many people actually know. I feel that I'll probably end up leaving in maybe 6 to 12 months. Like, that's how I deep down feel, because I don't like where it's heading, and especially the amount of people that are taking part. It's quite scary. But even I was going to say before, but I think in I don't know if it was a World Economic Forum where this is, but like the human settlement camps. Is that correct? Like that's a part of the agenda as well, which is very similar to the climate lockdown, but that's what they classed it as, human settlement camps.
Yeah, they want to control population and where population moves. They want people. I mean, Agenda 21 talked about people being in cities that are more controllable. Grids, right? Essentially, there's a grid that's more controllable. So, relocating the population away from countryside places where again, people are more connected to land. I mean, getting control of the food. This is one of the most important things in the whole planet, right? I mean, when food and water, we don't live.
Yeah.
So it's a huge agenda that's at work. Are you seeing actual resistance in Australia as far as the protests? Is there any effect? Is it building? Is it dwindling? What's happening?
Look, spiritually, yes. But in a sense of like, who do we actually have to stand up to take it to council, take it to government, take it to parliament? Who we have to slow this down. I don't think there's many people. There's Ricardo Bossi that's been getting up, talking about running and all of these other things. But with the protest, yes, it's getting that sort of collective consciousness to waking up, and you can feel it waking up, right? You can, because they shut it down. They shut down places of prayer, places of worship. They large gatherings and that. So they've disconnected us spiritually, right, over the last 12 months. But now with all of this, like, you feel it when you see it, and you know that you're not alone. You know what I mean? You know that there is something happening, and it is a spirit war, right? You know what I mean? And it's a war on our conscience, and it's all these things. So is this what we need to take down the agenda and put a stop to it? Although it's not being televised, it's
the revolution will not be televised. That was what was promised to you.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, look, there's been, I think, three rallies that I haven't been able to take part in. Number one, the first one was because I believe that we have to fight this differently. That day, me and my friend, we took to a mountain and we meditated, and we set the intention to say, like, may the day go well. But the second one that followed from that was a setup, and everyone went and got arrested. We also seen what happened in Victoria. Like, that was just crazy. They had the terror squad out and all sorts. They were spear tackling people. They were shooting them. Media was calling people, and we're seeing the same thing with the Trump movement on Capitol Hill when they started calling people with flags extremists, right? So here, if you carry an Australian flag, protesting on a hill, waving, singing a peaceful Australian song, you're classed as a right-wing neo-Nazi, right? So we had another rally the other day. But we got one more on the 18th of December, which I'll be taking part on. And there's a lot more. So the momentum is building up. We found the first 1 and 2, setups and police chaos. I feel that as we get into it, I think we'll see what we've seen on some of the streets in Europe, where you're seeing a lot of the police walking with the people and taking sides, you know, and there was no clash with that. And this is when you got that sense of, yes, we are winning, you know. So I think it's coming. So that's probably the best way to describe, you know, what I see it and how
Well,
I
there was
see
some
it.
resistance from truckers and people like that, right, in Australia?
Yeah,
Right.
they went on
Backbone.
strike. Yeah, so a lot of our truckers, they travel interstate, right? So as soon as they said, yeah, we'll open the borders for those that are vaxxed, would open the borders up for the truckers, they were like, no, like we're not taking part of that, because they started to see a lot of stuff that was coming online, right? And so they tried to stand their ground for a little bit, and they did. They blocked off some highways, they blocked off some bridges, and they literally shut it down. But I think that, I'm not saying that some of that was a bit of a stunt, but I mean, the momentum of that, it just felt like it was just a one thing, and then it stopped. You know, like it didn't. It may have, you know, stopped a couple of things and let them, you know, keep going and stuff. But you know, they still pushed the whole vax mandate, and a lot of people got the vaccine just to, you know, just to go to work anyway. So, so that sort of happened, where there was a lot of strikes and stuff. But you know, you got a lot of people too in the 3D game, in the 3D matrix, playing their part. Although there is an awakening movement that's actually happening, like there's still people trapped in that 3D collective, being a part, playing their role in that sort of game to this, that aren't working against it to stop it. You know, they're just sort of participating because they know something's wrong, but they can't really fit exactly what it is. You know, like they don't know that this is darker forces being played out, you know, like out of this country,
Well, that's
probably in another dimension.
There's a certain inevitability to everything that's happening, and that's why it's like I always temper people. It's like you can't get too down about it. You know, you have to trust that there is an inevitability to all of this. The New World Order rolling out was inevitable, but every bad idea of history has to be born to die, like ultimately to run its course and die. It won't. You can't abort it. It will come back. It will come back in so many different forms, and so in a way, this ultimate empire, you know, power grab for, you know, total control of the human concept. This is something that's born of centuries, and it has to, in a sense, run its course. And people will see it firsthand. You know, you whatever people's ideals may be, you have to understand any system that is idealistic and trying to become all-encompassing, right? Trying to become so global, such a monoculture, so monolithic. Ultimately, it's like the Tower of Babel. Yeah. It will ultimately crumble. So we can only say that we have to find our place in this chaotic reality that seems like order. I mean, people will think, oh, this is great. You know, we have a more ordered or more organized society. And then you turn around and you'll see that actually it's not the order that you want, because total order is death, essentially. It is death of the spirit. So again, I trust that what we are seeing playing out is the sort of the apocalypse, the ultimate revealing of the power structure that has always been there, that has, you know, essentially been, you know, conspiratorially behind the scenes and now playing out right before our eyes, and people are making choices. And there are those that will just not be able to survive or stand what is coming, or understand, but stand in what is coming. So, you know, as you said, it's spiritual in the sense that we have to tap into what we are, which is we're divine spiritual emanation. If we can connect to that, we prevail. We win no matter what. If we don't, if we disconnect from that, we're lost in materiality, we lose no matter what. That's really the only two sides that are at work here. It's spirit versus matter. Matter is a spiritual experience, unless you believe so dogmatically in it. That's entropy, that's death. So I'm actually very optimistic. But it's painful too. I mean, it's painful, as you know, as people are experiencing. It's like, it's not fun to go through this. We're living through the most massive social experiment ever partaken upon the human species. Yeah. Social and scientific experiment ever partaken. But again, do you want to choose to opt in, or do you want to say, I'm the control, I'm going to stay out of your social experiment? That's the choice. Yeah, that's it, you know, and you're witnessing the whole social engineering of it, you know,
like firsthand, and it definitely does get overwhelming. But I think that is the darker force pulling you in. You know, when you eject out of it, you don't want to play the game and you want to observe it. You know that you got to tap back in and be a part of it, and that's when it gets you and draws you in, and it takes your energy. And I think that is, that's all a part of it as well. So you got learning to understand when to tap in and tap out, and put your energy in better places. It's going to uplift you rather than letting it consume you to then alter your reality, to say.
That's the key. And so that's why, again, we're being drawn to places. I think a lot of people, in the U.S. and others, I see like, okay, the cities are co-opted, the cities are taken over. Go to the countryside. Go to towns. Go to places that are of like mind to you. Let's find our energy and our power together in that association, that energy that's built from people gathering, right, in force, whether it's a protest or in a community. And starting to say, we value freedom, we value certain principles. And before you get on, I was saying, this is like USSR versus America. America wins because we value freedom. All these systems that are totalitarian, that we pretended we were fighting against all those centuries, all of a sudden overnight adopted. That system won't prevail. Free systems will prevail. It's the nature of life. Life is like bamboo. You've got to be, you have to be adaptive. You have to sway. You can't be monolithic, dogmatic, controlling.
Well, that's it, and that's what we're faced with. Today it's not survival of the fittest. It's who's going to survive to who can change. Because that's where we're at. Although the narrative is climate change, we're at a stage where we have to change as well. Like we can all hear the pain that humans have, or our species have put towards the planet. Like, the way we live, we're just raping the planet daily. You know what I mean? So it's like we also have to change and become a little bit more sustainable and conscious of the impacts that we're causing the planet as well. So I think that as well, has to be put into consideration too with this whole shift. Like, it's not like me myself. I want to flee the cities, get completely out and live off grid, and start to get back in contact with nature, get in harmony again, and I think that's what we've all lost. So like, coming out of this, will society be brought to its knees for the reset? Is this what we need? So we change, because we're pretty destructive, right? Like we're pretty savage creatures. Not obviously not all of us, but the way that we only know how to survive, like that's how we actually are. So do we all need this as a good thing and a bad thing? I think we kind of do.
I think it's, again, there's inevitability to these things, but don't mistake the fact that the parasite itself, that it's been parasitic beings parasiting on the productivity, the creativity of humanity across the planet, is the same parasite that is now creating the reset. Don't buy it. You see, it's why it's like so many of these. Well, I don't want to get into all that, but just to say that it basically, it's all it's doing is going to continue to parasite on you. It's the owners of the planet saying you are the ones that will not own anything, but we will maintain everything that we have and more.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
So
the whole
don't buy into
society.
these things. My point is, any controlling apparatus, any controlling system that's trying to create reform will only create more control and more destruction in its wake, because you're not in a fluid and adaptive system. I always put it to people like this: if these people are so interested in pollution, right, they wouldn't be focused on carbon dioxide, which is not a pollutant. They'd be focused on cleaning up things that are tangible, like rivers, oceans, plastic pollution, things like this, cutting down on landfill waste, full recycling programs. These things are tangible. You could actually measure that. You could say, wow, we've actually cleaned this river. We can actually see it and measure it. We actually reduce the pollutants from that are in our cities and our air, for example. You can actually measure those things. Climate change, that's like saying, well, what's the weather today? You can never, it's another invisible enemy.
Yeah.
It's something that's fantastical, that's beyond anyone's comprehension or ability to actually fully measure. So that's why it's a part of the control apparatus, just like everything that's been done to combat the invisible enemy, that is the virus. There are tangible things that could be done, but as we know, they're not profitable. That's why they've been restricted, right? All the frontline doctors saving thousands of people are restricted, but the hospitals that are killing thousands of people continue to operate with their protocols. They don't listen to people that are the frontline doctors that are saving thousands of people. So obviously, there's an agenda. And again, I go back to the spiritual side. If you choose to buy the bullshit, do not be surprised when you get sick or you die from it. Because guess what? Bullshit will do. It will kill you. You want to consume it? It'll kill you. So on that note,
that's a good way to put it.
it's just now we're at that point.
Yeah.
You know, people have been buying bullshit for a long time. We're at the phase where it's actually going to kill us.
Just a quick question. Where do you, like, you know, it's safe to say that this, however this whole thing's been playing out, 50 years, 70 years, let's say we're at the ending of it, but like, where do you see it leading to? Like, do you feel that this is going to lead to 2030? Do you feel that like we're probably seeing the ending of it's, you know, maybe a couple of more years? Do you feel maybe there might be some form of military conflict to put an end to this? Because there are some prophecies that predict that. Like, what do you see? Do you think this?
We can't get into predictive models of potentialities. The future is purely potentialities. What matters right now is the spiritual war. Like you said, tuning into yourself, finding your inner power, your inner voice, your authenticity. All that matters is the individual's unique experience of reality. This is why I emphasize so much everything about getting control of our minds and our bodies. This is why everything that they're promoting is completely antithetical to the free spirit that gives birth to creation. You cannot treat every human being as the same body. That's robots. That's not a human body. You can't treat every human mind the same way. You can't put them all in schools and indoctrinate them with the same way of learning. Every human mind is different. So it's about every person getting in touch with their own sense of individual self, divine spirit, soul. That is what we are born from. That is what we are. And if you can't do that, it really doesn't matter what you think or what you want to have happen. It doesn't matter. What's going to happen is happening. What's coming is coming. It is a sweeping away, and end times is a beautiful time because it means the beginning.
Yeah, that's it.
Birth, it feels like, when it feels like you're being swallowed, remember that's what it feels like in the birth canal.
Yeah, that's it. You know, you see the whole separation of it as well, you know, which it's quite scary. Like, it's not scary, but I mean, like, it's scary because I participate in society and you just see it everywhere. It's painted everywhere, you know. And even like the schools, a lot of the schools around here have had a lot of upgrades, and they look like little camps, you know, like they've all had these full developments in them, and they're not like open schools anymore, you know, like they've got 8-foot high security fences, you know, they're like these big demountable infrastructure buildings that's going into these government schools, and it's just like, wow, you can see what they're doing, you know, like, you know, fully disconnect and separate the family, you know, and it's happening pretty quick, eh? So it
is. But again, it's not our choice. That our choice is everyone's choice now. And maybe it's already been chosen. It was chosen even, you know, lifetimes ago. That's why some will never wake up in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And others are in the process of awakening. And in that process, it's a beautiful experience because we get to remember things, who we really are, what we're doing here. We get to experience this dimension as it is, as one of many. This is only a singular experience of a multidimensional reality. So let's embrace it. Let's be more connected, inwardly connected, and more optimistic.
Yeah.
Let's make the choices that give us the best life possible for ourselves. And if those, you know, our loved ones want to join us, or we can connect with our loved ones, even better. We welcome that.
Yeah, that's it. You know, when they started putting us in the lockdowns in the early months, me and my friend were going out early mornings, doing meditation sessions, you know, trying to get our power back and just trying to get, you know, just going off into the mountains in darkness, doing trail runs and then catching the sunrise and then, you know, just really connecting and getting grounded. and this was right in the heart of it. This is when it really got quite intense, and that is what kind of got us through. Like we were like, well, you're seeing a lot of people crumble around us, and yeah, you got to really dive back in, reconnect yourself, and get in tune with yourself. Because I mean, once you get rid of all the external noise and tap within, that's the only sort of weapon we have to fight back, against it. And when you do go within, you understand and realize how powerful you actually are within, right? And, once you go within, you find love. Once you've got love, that's it. You've won, and that is within. So, yeah, you do have to do that and take your power back. And, if only we all done that, right, it would be over like this. So
that's it. It's love. And you know what? And this is one of my favorite things in Islam, or, the Islamic religion, the faith. They say there is no compulsion in religion. There is no compulsion in love. That's where you know when things come from love as opposed to the dark. It's compulsion. When people force you to do something, that's not coming from love. And that's all you need to know. And that's where we draw the line in this reality. Everything begins and ends with this point. Am I forcing you to do something? That compulsion is not love. It doesn't come from a good place.
Well, that's it.
Even people will think, oh, but when you're a child, you need to force the child. Do you really? Or have you been taught that you must force the child? Maybe the child has knowledge and intuition that you as the adults have forgotten because you were indoctrinated as a child. Maybe when the child says, I don't want to go to school, the child is right. Maybe that's not the best education or place for the child. There's so many things that people have to reassess if they want to actually enter the new earth. Because the new earth is on the other side of this. And this is the greatest test. This is the greatest social experiment, medical experiment in human history, because it literally is on a spiritual level saying, where do you stand? Do you get to be a sovereign, empowered soul on this planet? Do you get to enjoy this planet as an authentic, unique individual? Or are you essentially so malleable, so compliant that you're no better than a robot? This is the test. This is the initiation. It's hard for people to fathom that because it's painful. And it's like it throws everything out. Like, I want to go back to my old job. I want to go back to my old system. I want to go back to this. I want to go back to that. But you can't be born into something new. You can't accept something new or better if you don't let go of that which was keeping you back, even without realizing it. It was safe. It was comfortable.
Yeah, that's it. Everything you said then, really resonates, and it kind of feels like it feels like the answers to what we need to do to all the questions being asked about the Mayan calendar, right? Like, Mayan calendar spoke about this, and it's like, or scratching our head in 2012, and it's like, what,
that was the beginning.
Yeah,
that was the beginning.
Yeah, so now it's all coming into play, and it's just like when you really tune in and you're like, oh, maybe it can't be happening, and is it happening, and is it that? And you're like, no, like it's there, it's everywhere, it's written on the walls. Like, ancients spoke about it, they've erased history. Like, I feel a specific way, and I'm connecting to a collective, and other people on the side of the world are speaking about the same thing, and how I feel and how I think. Like, this is the only thing that makes sense right now. And it's what we need to do. And it's it's funny, that the whole meta symbol with the infinite, the sign of the infinite, or like this is the other end of the new earth. And it's like, well, what's happening? What's going to happen? Like, you're right. It's a test. Is this a soul harvest? Is this a soul test? And who's going to graduate? What do we do to graduate?
We couldn't even fathom that we'd be here at this moment 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can't wait to see in 2 years where we are.
Yeah. you know, I always quote this and I always say it, and I don't even know why I say it. You know, like I'm just a guy from Sydney, but like I say to myself and I say to others, like, you know, if there's 7.8, 7.7 billion people on the planet, like, why is it that we're all here right now as reincarnated souls for this moment when we're all waking up? Why? Like it, it has to be for something, right? You know, so are we going to witness some John Connor type of stuff, or are we going to witness, you know, some unicorns and rainbows and some flying doves and some peace and unity?
I'll leave it at this. People need to let go of every vision that's been planted in their mind of what needs to happen or what will happen. Because what's coming is beyond anything you can fathom. And that's the beautiful place to leave it. Because we plan and God laughs. So with that, I'll say, do the meditation, do the prayer work, find your inner connection, your inner truth, and just manifest the world you want to live in. Imagine it into being.
Okay. I'm going to, that's it. That's what I'm doing from now on.
Beautiful. Listen,
So,
brother, I'm going to get going. It's great to see you.
No worries, pal. We'll do it again.
All right, sounds good.
Cheers, Sean. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.